Hello, and today I'm going to explain a little trick that I use when I want to find out if the source that I'm seeing, if it has a hidden narrative or a hidden agenda behind an otherwise neutral stance. So I'm going to do a demonstration, and by the demonstration I hope that you'll understand my method of looking at sources. Okay, so today we're going to look at some source about the Gaza-Israeli war, and I'm going to explain how I am using my methods of finding out if there is a hidden narrative behind the post or the source. So here we see that their shocking testimonies reveal the execution of dozens of elderly people by Israeli army in the Gaza Strip. And when I see an article like that, I want to find what are the sources. So looking at the article, there is a whole report in Arabic that I can read, but I see that this report, even before looking at the report, which is a very important thing, I need to look at who published this report. So looking at the report, I can see that this is the Euromed Human Rights Monitor. This is the name of the source, the people who really did the report and published their findings. So the first thing I need to do is to look at this Euromed Human Rights Monitor, which seems on the, just by the name, it seems like something based on Europe, something that is only concerned with human rights. So the next thing I'm going to do is to search for them. So looking at the Euromed Human Rights Monitor, I can see in their website that they have About Us. So it is very important to look at the official records, the official claims of the people who publish something to see who they are. So let's see who they are. According to them, they are a youth-led independent non-profit organization that advocates for the human rights of all persons across Europe and the MENA, Middle East, and North Africa region, particularly those who live under occupation, in the throes of war or political unrest, and or have been displaced due to the persecution or armed conflict. So according to them, they are basically a European-based human rights organization that also cares, as a by the way thing, about the Middle East. They were established in November 2011, and they now reside, their headquarters is in Switzerland. So it is all a very neutral stance according to their website. But after looking at the official statements of a site, it is really important to see the people involved in it, because this is all very vague. You know, you have this vague statements about who they are and what they do. So first thing, we need to see their content. So let's look at the content. Let's just look at their homepage, and we see that most of what they're covering now is the Israeli-Palestinian war. Let's go to a subsection here about women's rights, and we can see that they basically, their main topics, at least lately, is about violence against women in Gaza. We can see that in their website. We can also see that they care for refugees, and they also deal with a bit about Greece and a bit about Tunisia, North Africa, but we see that most of what they deal with now is the Gaza-Israeli conflict, but this is because this is something that happened now, so it is probably okay. The next thing we need to see about the site is the people themselves. So in their website, we're going to look at About Us and look at the staff, and especially looking at the head person, the chairman. It is really important to check about the chairman. We see that the chairman is a person called Rami Abdu. So we're going to look about this person. So let's Google it. And Googling about Rami Abdu shows that he is a Palestinian financial expert. So we see that he is a Palestinian who was born in the Gaza Strip. So you see that the person really has this site and this organization is mostly, his main concerns may be about Gaza and the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, in contrary to what they say on the site, that they are basically a European-based organization that mostly cares about Europe. So we need to put it in our minds that this person is going to lean into the Israeli-Palestinian conflicts more than him caring about Europe. So another thing we can do to check about Rami Abdou is to check tweets by Rami Abdou. So let's just search for some tweets of his. We can see that he is decrying the violence of Israel against the people in Gaza, as we assumed that he would do. And he says that Israel's future ends here after their atrocities, according to him. People will fight with their living flesh for revenge, disregarding a world that abandoned them. So we see that he is not exactly a neutral organization, and he does have a narrative. Let's see some other tweets of Rami Abdou. The Israeli army is engaging in traditional warfare in Gaza. What it does in this small strip called Gaza is merely destruction, wiping everything off the ground. The Israeli army is a cowardly, bloodthirsty, savage force akin to a Nazi killer. So we see here that Rami Abdou is again adopting the narrative of the Palestinians as these saints and the Israeli army as this evil force. Let's look at some other tweets by Rami Abdou. And here we have a tweet that he has in Arabic. So we can very quickly translate it into English if we don't know Arabic. So let's translate it. At dawn this day, with the support of the occupation forces, herds of colonialists stormed the Ibrahim Mosque in Khalil al-Rahman and performed Talmudic prayers. So this is how he journalistic views on Jews coming to the mosque of Khalil al-Rahman, which is actually the cave of the patriarchs. Ibrahim Mosque, Abraham, this is the cave of the patriarch. And in their prayers there, their celebrations there, he really describes it as Talmudic prayers. So we see that he also has a religious agenda against Jews. Let's see some other posts of his. Perhaps we can know better about this person. Here is from another site, and this site is also a site that is pro-Israeli, anti-Palestinian site, so we also need to take it with a grain of salt. But we see here that they have a tweet by Rami Abdou, which says Israeli soldiers from Netzach Yehuda battalion are celebrating their rabbi on the rear of a tank yesterday amid racist chants. So let's see if there are racist chants here. And let's hear it.
שנה טובה ומתוקה לעם ישראל.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know Hebrew, he basically says the rabbi. It's not a rabbi, by the way. You recognize him as a ultra-orthodox religious singer in Israel. Probably came to visit the soldiers, so he basically says Happy New Year to all the people of Israel, and then all the soldiers chant the Netzach Yehuda, the name of their battalion, which is basically can be translated into Judea forever or something like that. So I don't see in there some racist chants and insults against Muslims. I understand how this pro-Israeli, anti-Palestinian site would be offended by this lie. So we see that this Rami Abdou is not exactly your neutral, average, non-Palestinian head of a really neutral health and human rights organization site. So let's go back to their official site. Okay, so let's go back to the Human Med Euromed Human Rights Monitor, their site, and let's see some other things that can help us understand. So we know that they are pro-Palestinians. They have a very strong narrative about Palestinians as the saintly people, and the Israelis and Jews in general as being messianic evil people who really horrifically trash Palestinian and Arab rights and Muslim rights. So let's see in women's rights if they have something here. They have a little article about Qatar. Authorities must protect, reveal fate of young women escaped domestic violence. So we see that in their agenda they are also more secular. They're less traditional Muslim. They're not Islamist, for example. They don't support ISIS or extremist Islamic agendas, but they do support Arabic nationality, and they probably see Hamas battle against Israel not as a religious war, not as an Islamist war against a democratic state, but as a national struggle against Israel, that the Arab nationality must win here. So we know that they are Arab nationals. They really see Arabic nationality in general, not only in Palestine, but also in North Africa and the whole Middle East. They believe in this whole Arabic nationality, and that they have their very clear agendas, very clear narratives about the Israeli-Palestinian struggle. And we also see that their head is not exactly truthful in some of his cases, so we need to take everything he says against Israel and most of his reports with a grain of salt, but we do need to look at evidence in the report that he publishes. So this is basically what I do when I see any publication or any source. I try to look at who published it, who exactly is this guy. Does he have secret narratives that he doesn't say explicitly, that he doesn't portray explicitly about him and about his organization? And then I'm going to judge if the source that I am using, is it more neutral, or is it supporting a specific narrative, and should I really support that narrative just based on this one source? And also including my content. You should know that my content is pro-Israel. It's not an anti-Palestinian content, and you need to know that. So you also need to take my analysis and my sources that I use with a grain of salt. But I do believe that even while you are not perfectly objective, you can also try to be objective and not blatantly trying to force your narrative on people, meaning that if I see that Israel does something wrong, let's say if indeed the atrocities described by Abdu in his article, if they are proven to be true, and again I need to take them with a grain of salt, but let's say I did a very thorough and non-biased analysis of his findings and found out that indeed there is enough evidence there, not just lies or narratives without real sources, real concrete sources, then I need to modify my views about Israel, the Israeli army, for example, how it works, what I know about Israel, but not in a way that should really turn me into the other side, saying that Israel is the most evil thing in the world. And your narrative needs to be modified. So I have my narrative. I know in the back of my head that I have a pro-Israeli narrative, and perhaps it should be modified. And the people who are watching this should also consider their narratives, and they also should look at the sources and find out what hidden narratives are behind the sources that they use to build their own narrative. So that's it, and as always, think about it.